Oh no, not again. What am I going to do with this? And there's another one over here. That's a big waste of time. Now I got to go search for another board. Unless I can fix this. I think I got an idea. Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Dan. On this channel, for those who are new to the channel or are tuning in for the first time, I make wood products and I fix tools and I work with metal. I found a solution, a not expensive solution that'll save you money and time when it comes to taking care of knots. If you get a knot or a defect in a board, what do? You go buy another board? You go searching for another piece of lumber somewhere, or what do? Well, I have a pretty nice solution to that problem, and it's a finger glue joint router bit. Okay, so basically, as the name says, it creates a finger joint. Okay, and there's 3 or 4 steps to the process. Okay, first you get your board and you get a defect. What do? You cut the defect out. Okay, now you have the option of creating a board with the same grain and coloration, okay, or you can flip it over, and if there's a discoloration in the board, you get contrast, and you'll see this in hardwood floors. Okay, but here is where it gets tricky. Number 4, when you run it through your router bit, okay, you have to put your both pieces side by side and run them that way through the router bit, like this. Okay, and what you want to do is clamp those 2 pieces together and run them as one. That way it is less dangerous and your boards are on an even level. Okay, now for this bit to work, if I flip it over, put them side by side and run it through, to fit it I have to re-flip it, and I end up with the same grain pattern. Okay, but if I don't flip it and I just butt them side by side and run them through, when I flip it over again to join them together, I'm going to get a discoloration from one board to the next, because I'm going to be looking on the back side of the board and on the front side of the board, so they're not going to be the same coloration. And if I don't want discoloration, I'm going to flip it. I'm going to flip it, right? And if I want discoloration, I'm going to run them side by side with the X's on top of the other. Okay? So when I run it through my bit here, another thing you have to keep in mind is you want this corner of lumber to be, you want to set your bit height so that your lumber touches your bearing on your router bit. Okay? If not, it'll just suck it in. Now on my router, it's a router table. I have a fence on it. Okay? I could run it up against the fence, but what happens with that is I got to make sure my fence lines up exactly with the root of these fingers. Now, I'm going to show you the bit. I'm just going to go get the bit. This is the bit, right? Okay. As you see over here, same things. It's the bit. And those fingers are aligned. Anyways, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and let's get on with it. Okay, so we're going to start by cutting out the defect. Okay, so I'm going to go on this side of the knot, and you want to remove it's fine and dandy just to remove the knot, but you want to make sure you don't leave any of the knot inside of each board. So we'll start on this side. And that's a clean board right there. So I'm going to do the same thing and remove that knot. And actually this one had a knot here and over here. Well, actually there's some knots throughout the board, but I'm just trying to make a proof of concept here, right? So I'm going to remove this part. And there is no knot left over in this one. Okay? So, like I said, I can leave it as is, and this is the same color. So if I run it like this in the machine, when I assemble it, okay, so this is an X and X, they're on the same side. When I run it through and I come to assemble it, I have to flip it over. And then I might have a discoloration from board to board. Okay? But if I go like this was just cut, here's the piece, and I flip it over, and I run it like this, then when I assemble it, I have to re-flip it over, join it together, and I have the same color of board. And make sure that your ends are squared, because you're going to be clamping on that surface. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the way I actually set my fence to the bearing to make sure that these fences are aligned with the bearing. So I'll bring you in closer, you can take a look. So as you see, I'm clamped here, so this board has to be on the same path as this level, right? And same thing as this board. So if they're both in contact with the level, all I have to do is touch that bearing. And that's what I'm doing now. I can't turn that bearing right now. So I tighten down both sides of my fence. So now I know I can run a board through there at any level. I'm going to try one pass with touching the bearing, but I might end up running it not touching the bearing. So I'm going to clamp these together. So these fit together. Now, do I get an inch? I get 7/8, a maximum of 7/8. So, nope. Okay, so what I did was cut the routed portion out, and I'm going to try it again. And what I did was half and half the teeth. I'm not going to be making contact with that bearing, but I put my straight edge on here and I was touching the bearing. So I'm relying on that to give me the proper depth of cut. If I don't get the proper depth of cut, when I squeeze those pieces of lumber together, they're not going to bottom out on each other, okay? Okay, so this, since this is going to be machined, okay, this isn't an issue, but this is called tear out. See those slivers? If you want to not get tear out, slap another piece of lumber here and put 3 through at the same time. And I'll show you when I take this clamp apart. Okay, so I got tear out. If I want to put a board, no tear out. See? Okay, now let's see what this does. I sent it in opposites, and now I'm going to bring back the excess together so I get the same color, not discoloration from one board to the next. There's no dissimilarity. And now, from the looks of it, there's a little space. Oh, you can't see that, right? There's a little bit of space for glue in between the joints. Okay, but I won't know for sure until I clamp this together with glue and let it dry. I want it over an inch, right? So this gives me, with the half and half, I'm going to get at the most an inch and 3/16. That's better than 7/8. Like I want a final dimension of 1 inch once this is all milled down, right? Alright, so let's join this together. I hope this doesn't buckle upwards on me. So that's tight, and this has dried. This is the day after. Okay, so this has been glued and clamped, and as you can tell, this clamp on this side was pinching harder than the other side, because this is a pretty tight. It's an okay clamp, okay, and but on this side it didn't clamp deep enough, or it's the manner in which it was ran through the router. So it's best to actually plane your piece down on both sides and square them off, and then run it through the router and then glue and clamp it, and make sure your clamps are secured and tight on both sides. It's got to be clamped properly. Well, thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.